Hello everybody, it's the Lawn Gnome. Welcome back to a brand new DCU update, your first for 2024. If you are new, I just want to say welcome. It's a pleasure to have you, and for all of you returning, I'm really hoping that you're excited for my discussion and review of the latest installment to the DC animated library, which is now known as the Tomorrowverse. So, I guess the best place to go before we discuss the newest film, which is a very big one. This is actually the very first three-part animated feature, and it of course is based on one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic story in the world of DC Comics history, and that is Crisis on Infinite Earths, but this movie is called Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1. Of course, the comic book is made by the legendary Marv Wolfman and George Perez. We just recently lost George Perez, so this was a big thing when they first announced that the film was going to be coming out. More importantly, that they really wanted to make sure that they would do the very best that they can to pay tribute to the late George Perez, because he is responsible for this amazing story as well as the Teen Titans comic book. So I was somewhat excited for this movie, especially because of the fact that when it comes to the current storyline in DC animation, the Tomorrowverse really hasn't been the strongest. I mean, we've had some fun stories like Legion of Superheroes. There's a lot of people that did somewhat appreciate the Long Halloween duology. But overall, since Superman Man of Tomorrow, the movies that have been coming out have just not been that good. But along with watching Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1, watching the special feature interviews, especially considering the fact that they actually got Marv Wolfman to be a part of it, and he definitely seemed to have put his stamp of approval on it, I guess the skepticism went away just a little bit for me after I saw the movie, because is this movie bad or is it good? Well, I can't really give you my judgment because I haven't seen parts 2 or 3, and clearly nobody has because they haven't been released yet, but I will say that this was not a game-changing, phenomenal movie, but it was by no means bad. As a matter of fact, I personally found a lot to enjoy in this movie. And of course, some of the things that people will not be happy about is the fact that this is not entirely comic book accurate. I mean, the most accurate thing is the whole meeting with all the superheroes in the Hall of the Monitor, and basically giving them the reason why they've all been brought together, seeing all of these alternate versions of heroes, although do we really see alternate versions of heroes? I mean, we only see one Batman, we see 2 Supermen, we only see 1 Aquaman, 1 Wonder Woman. I'm like saying, shouldn't we be seeing some other versions? But then again, do we even really see a lot of those in the comics themselves? We did see a very interesting take on the Bat family, which I thought was pretty cool as well. And the Monitor pretty much gave us the whole rundown of what Crisis was all about. I mean, they definitely went out of their way to make sure that there were 2 Supermen, because there is definitely a significant staple that there is Superman of Earth 1 and the Golden Age Superman of Earth 2 in this movie, so at least they did that, which I thought was very nice. But when you actually do watch this movie, they did say that there were a couple of things that will call back to the other movies in the Tomorrowverse, where they were literally just dropping small little things, and you see those small things showing up in this movie. What I personally appreciated about this film was that they really tried to not only pay tribute to the story itself, but also pay tribute to other ideas that DC had regarding the multiverse. I mean, clearly one of the big things is the fact that you did see Jay Garrick in the background, which is a callback to Flash 123, which is Flash of 2 Worlds, and I also really appreciated the storyline that they had regarding the Crime Syndicate, which does not get featured in the original comic book, but the Crime Syndicate was one of the earliest stories in the Silver Age of comics where the DC comic characters did encounter this alternate universe where these evil versions of the superheroes exist. I will definitely recommend to go way back into the DC animated library to check out Justice League Crisis on 2 Earths. That is a fantastic and fun film. But I really appreciated the story that they did with The Flash. I could definitely say that some people could probably find it confusing because there was a lot of cuts and a lot of time travel and stuff like that, but one of the few things that we need to remember about Crisis on Infinite Earths in the comics is that the two main focuses of that story are the Flash and Supergirl. There was an interesting thing that they did with Supergirl. I don't know why they did that, but I'm having a feeling that we will get more answers when we get to Part 2. Now, I've also seen the teaser trailer for Part 2, and there were a couple of things that got spotted that surprised me. And I'm really, really excited to see what they're going to do with it. I know that Part 2 is going to be coming out sooner rather than later, but I will say that when it comes to Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1, they definitely give us the main meat of the comic that was written by Marv Wolfman and George Perez. And I do feel that it sort of really does give tribute to George Perez. I mean, there's a wonderful tribute at the very end of the film, but like I said, it's not great, but it's not bad. I'm like somewhere in the middle. I enjoyed it, but I feel that I will have a better idea of where I stand with this movie when the last two parts come out. The one thing that I personally am taking away from this is I'm wondering if there was supposed to be a lot more movies, because I feel that there was supposed to be more, but because of the fact that they weren't making as much money or they weren't as popular, because like I said, a lot of these Tomorrowverse movies are not great. I kind of feel that they were told you gotta make this storyline shorter, but at the end of the day, Crisis on Infinite Earths was going to be the end-all of this story. And I'm also really curious to know that when the Tomorrowverse is officially over, where do we go with the DCU animated films? I mean, I believe what's going to happen is it's going to be very connected to James Gunn's DC universe, which I'm personally not too enthusiastic about. I would personally say that there's more that they could do with the DC animated universe with a lot of different stories that we haven't even seen yet. I mean, I personally would love to see a Kingdom Come movie, and if there was any way that they could do the animation to make it feel like Alex Ross's art, which would probably be near impossible, but who knows with animation these days, that's like the final DC animated movie that I would like to see, and obviously that should be a two-parter as well, but I can dream. We'll see what happens. I had been saying for years that Crisis on Infinite Earths should become a film, and I'm also glad that not only has it started to become a film, that it's not going to be just one movie, because you can't tell this story in just one movie. So the fact that we're going to get a trilogy, I'm excited about that. So I'm hoping that you all enjoyed this video. I would love to hear your thoughts on Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1, and I'm hoping you guys are also looking forward to how the rest of this story turns out. But in the meantime, everybody, I'll see you in the next one. If you enjoyed the video you just watched, feel free to leave a comment. Also, feel free to subscribe if you want to be up to date with our latest videos. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next one. Actions speak louder than words.